Why are they on the ground? Check this cos out. They're looking lackluster to me. G'day, I'm Mark from Self Sufficient Me, and in this video I'm going to show you what happened to our food garden after we've been away on holidays for 4 weeks. Let's get into it. Well, I have to say I'm feeling quite refreshed, if not still a bit jet lagged, because we only got back late yesterday. We were up at 2 o'clock this morning, twiddling our thumbs, wondering what we should do because of the time difference between Europe and here. But even though I'm a little bit buggered, I still am feeling quite refreshed and inspired from our European and UK foodie holiday tour. The UK, Spain and Portugal was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I must have eaten my own weight in food, I reckon 10 times over. Well, I had to compensate for all that exercise we were doing. I reckon I walked about 1,000 kilometers over those 4 weeks. We visited markets, we sampled all these different types of foods. We even threw tomatoes at each other and other people. Yes, I like to see the sights and all that, but I do get a lot of inspiration from traveling around for what I can grow in the garden, but not just grow, what I can use with that produce. And I've sampled many different types of ways to cook and preserve the produce that we grow, and I'm going to implement those things and of course share them with you on this channel. But while I was away, I specifically asked my 2 young boys, Luke at 18 and James 21, instructions on really 2 things: how to water the garden and also weeding the garden. And I have to say that it didn't all go to plan. And that's what I'm going to show you now, the good and the bad. Starting right here. This, if you've been following my videos, is our straw bed, no soil needed. And in here I planted potatoes. Why then are there potatoes, and beautiful looking potatoes too, why are they on the ground? Yes, I know. I was pretty puzzled myself when I came out here and saw that. So I had to get to the bottom of it as quickly as possible. Well, it seems like the young fella, in his haste to weed the garden before I got back home, because they knew they'd be in trouble if they didn't, he didn't realise that this wasn't a weed. I know he's only grown up here for 18 years on this property, eating homegrown potatoes all his life. I expected that he would know what a potato plant looked like. Anyway, now I've got the experiment ruined. We'll have to dig them up later and see how many we can get out of this bed. There are a couple of stalks there still coming up that he didn't rip out. Maybe we can salvage something out of that experiment. Oh my goodness gracious. Some of them still got the plants attached to them. Look at that. I tell you what, I'm pretty happy with that harvest. These are beautiful looking spuds. It's just a pity they didn't go to full term. Let's put them there and let's have a bit more of a look around and see how everything else is. Overall, the garden's not looking too bad, but I can tell that it hasn't been watered enough. Now, I did say to the eldest that you need to be watering at least every 3 days, especially as we're coming into spring now and it's getting hot. Subtropical climate, it gets hot fast here. Yes, you do have some cooler days throughout spring as you lead into summer, but you can also have 30 plus days, that's 30 degrees Celsius. And we typically have a dry spring. You don't get much rainfall at all. And we're having that typical spring now, where you don't get much rain, and then you get the summer rains in around December at Christmas time. You get fairly regular rain, although it gets extremely hot and humid. But I can tell by just looking at the garden, and it occurred to me when I was thinking about this, that I'm always saying food gardening is easy, and I try to inspire people to grow their own food, saying how really easy it is to do. But now thinking about it, it is easy, but if you're an experienced gardener, like I am, not to blow my own trumpet, but I have to admit that I can see things straight away that a novice gardener or a beginner gardener just can't see because of the experience. And you only get that by getting out in the garden to gain that experience. You can read all the books you want, you can listen to Mark on Self-Sufficient Me and watch all the videos, which I hope you do, as much as you want. But at the end of the day, you really got to get out there and garden yourself, because that's the only way you get that picture in your mind of what a healthy, good plant should look like, and all the different species and varieties of plants and what they should look like when they're at full health. And then you can understand by a quick look, even just a glance at the garden, if something is wrong. And when I got home, I could see straight away that there was a lot of plants that were stressed from water, a lack of water. Whereas the boys, they saw a healthy garden. Now don't get me wrong, there are quite a few plants that are thriving and doing really well, and they have got enough water for one reason or another. Perhaps James stood there and watered longer in that spot. Perhaps the soil in those beds are a little more better at holding water. Perhaps the plants don't require as much water to stay healthy. And then there are others that definitely are underwatered and I can see in stress. For example, these Everglades tomatoes, they look pretty healthy to the average gardener. They're growing, they're green, they've got fruit on them. But I know this time of year, there should be more riper fruit. There's only a few. I just know from experience that around mid-September, these should be full of red little fruits, but a lot of the green ones have fallen off, and I can tell that the leaves, they're not fully drooping over like a novice gardener would see that drooped over like that and go, oh, it looks like something's wrong, probably not enough water. But I can just tell the leaves are slightly pale. That sort of means stress to me. They should be a little greener, and they're just wilting slightly. For me, I can tell if they don't get a water in the next few days, they'll start dying. It's the same with these peas. Look how brown these leaves are. They will normally start dying off, but it's still a bit early. It's early spring. They should be thriving. They're looking lackluster to me. They're growing big. This is a tall Spanish growing variety. Pretty cool, since we were just on holidays in Spain, and they do love their peas over there. They love them in the UK as well. Just about had mashed peas with everything. Same with these tomatoes. Look at them. They're flopping over. They really do look like anyone could tell that they need a drink. In fact, if I don't get water into this raised garden bed soon, you'll have cell collapse and these plants won't be able to recover. At the moment, I can get them back, I think, with a good drink, but yeah, leave it another day or two and they'll be beyond saving, which will be a shame because I've been trying to grow these plants for several months. And speaking of watering, HoseLink, and no, they're not sponsoring this video, but HoseLink has brought out a new hose reel. That's right, completely new. They've been working on this for years, and it's designed and built here in Australia. Anyway, I shouldn't throw the boys under the bus too much, because like I said before, I've got to understand that I am an advanced gardener. Even though, like I said, I think gardening is easy and I encourage everyone to give it a go because it's easy to learn, I do concede that, well, I give these guys a really good water, I do concede that it's not that easy for a beginner gardener to understand the nuances and the small changes and the subtleties sometimes that a plant or garden is trying to tell you. Anyway, I'll finish this watering off later. There are some really good success stories though, despite the garden not getting enough water or as much water as I would have liked. By the way, if you did want to purchase one of these hoses, you can get 10% off. The links are below in the description. But here's one of the success stories. Look at this taro. I replanted a lot of this taro, thinned it all out, I dug it all up, and then I replanted it back, and look how healthy it's looking. So obviously this has been getting enough heat because they die back in winter. You divide them up into a heap of smaller plants and then plant them again in the same bed, and I tell you what, they are looking extremely healthy and happy. And over here we've got a whole ring of wonderful cos lettuces, and they're surrounding some potatoes that I've got in the middle here that haven't been pulled out by accident. In fact, these cos, I've got to harvest a couple of them for tonight. I could even grab one now. Why not? Oh, it's just amazingly healthy. And then you've got these strawberries here in these half barrels, and also in some of these other larger raised round garden beds. They're not as big as normal, but I tell you what, they're not bad either. I can tell that they haven't been getting as much water as they should be by just looking at them. They're not as plump and there's not as many as there could have been. And then I've got some cauliflower here that are looking really good. Some are starting to flower. We can still eat it like that though. They haven't opened up. But this one here is nice and solid, so that's not a loss. Check this cos out. Wow. And I mean, you won't get a healthier looking lettuce than that. And you won't get healthier looking strawberries than these either. Look at that. Let's have a taste. How many times have I sampled a strawberry on my channel? I've had a few strawberries overseas on this trip, quite a lot of fruit. Still the best that I've tasted in this last month. Wow. So that's good. The boys obviously didn't see these. I told the boys to start, to eat from the garden, and in their defense, they ate quite a bit. They picked a fair few lettuces, they told me, and some of the brassicas, and cooked them up themselves. I mean, so they should. They've grown up with a backyard full of food their whole lives. And now that it's warming up, the passion fruit vine is looking lovely and healthy. There's plenty of ripe ones. This is that yellow giant. I haven't seen any giant ones yet. I've done a video on that. But yeah, still beautiful, lovely passion fruits. And right down the back of the garden, these onions, they're looking okay, they're on track. A bit crowded, I'll start harvesting these as young onions. Then we've got some broccoli, which are looking absolutely beautiful. Not all of them, some of them have got heads and we can harvest them. And we've got beetroot here, which is looking a bit sad. Again, it's lacking in moisture. That's all it is. Maybe a bit of a liquid fertilizer and that'll come good, hopefully. And then we've got asparagus here turning into ferns. I can cut some of these back, and this is the season now for asparagus. I've refurbished this asparagus bed. Unfortunately, wasn't here to start harvesting some of the bigger stalks. Beautiful. Doesn't taste like it's under stress, full of moisture. What do you think? Did the boys do a good job? Hey, did they do a good job? Yeah, I think overall they kept the garden alive. Yes, why did they pull out my potatoes? At least they didn't pull them all out. Well, they're beginners and you've got to give them an A+ for trying and for doing their best to keep the garden weeded, especially my garlic. That can quickly get overgrown with big weeds. They get shaded out, the moisture gets taken away even more because the weeds take over and suck all the moisture out of the beds. So if you haven't got that weeding combination and some watering at least when it's hot and dry, well then you won't have a garden when you come back in 4 weeks. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a big, I don't know, welcome home mark, thumbs up, and share the video around. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now. Cheers.